It's giving it importance, but it doesn't give importance to it.
So welcome to this episode of Not Daily Podcast Conversation, where we casually and informally, we're never formal, but we're even less formal here, and we debrief what's been happening in the last episodes.
Such a formal introduction for an informal conversation.
Yeah, that's pretty ironic, isn't it? But I wanted to stress out that it's in order to start a conversation with the public, so we take your feedback on every platform, YouTube, Twitter, Reddit, etc. And
even mail.
Even what?
Is mail a platform?
It's a medium. It's not a platform because it's not it doesn't have an owner. It's not a thing.
I guess so. If email was invented today, it would be a platform.
Clearly. Email could not be invented today, nor would the internet, by the way, man. Nor would the fire department. If someone said, oh, you have to pay for if your neighbor starts a fire.
Maybe, I think fire department would maybe still be invented, but library would never be invented.
Fire department, your neighbor is stupid enough to put fire to his house and you have to pay for it?
The fire can go to your house as well. So...
Well, COVID also, but then people don't vaccine, so...
But I think, library is a better case there, because, library...
Library is a clear... it's not even funny.
Yeah,
it's not even surprising.
Yeah, it's no way it exists today.
I think a lot of people would accept to live without libraries.
That's sadly true.
So anyway, send us all your thoughts and you'll be included in the next edition. For this edition, we're gonna start by 2 episodes ago. So the last conversation episode, we talked about Sam Lavigne.
Yes.
And and his art, etc. And right after we posted the episode, he started a new project.
Okay.
Which I thought was funny, so worth mentioning here, called Botnet, in which he made bots that basically go on websites that are environmental friendly, talk about green stuff, and the bots click on ads. So that way it boosts the revenue artificially of ecological friendly websites. Just wanted to bring it up because the timing was really really coincidental with our episodes.
That's fun. Does that work though? Isn't it I feel ad would be protected against bot, no?
Well, I mean, so if he advertised it, it's probably that he made some sort of something very sophisticated.
Yeah.
So it would work, but still, even if it works, it's peanut cents in the grand scheme of things. You can't get rich by bot clicking ads.
Yeah, I guess if you could, everyone would.
It's just funny.
Yeah.
If you could, it would be patched. Most projects, it's more for the gesture than anything else.
Yeah, no, it's a fun project. Just why environmental, his other work seems to be a bit more against capitalism.
Well, among other things, capitalism destroys environment. So
that is true.
If you want to click on all ads that are against capitalism, environmental ads are a good proxy, maybe. I don't know. You need simplicity when you're doing a project. You need to be able to explain it. Do you have anything you wanted to say about Sam Lavigne, since you went through a journey of art appreciation?
Yeah, I don't know what happened last time. I was a bit negative about his work, which is very weird because I went back to the website and actually it's a kind of work that I really, really like. I don't really understand why I had this negative emotion against it. I actually don't know. It's a bit weird, but I don't know. I don't really know what to say because the next day, maybe 2 days after recording the show, went back to it, clicked on every project, and I actually love 95% of it. I think maybe what it was reacting to it live. I think maybe it's a kind of work that you need to play with a bit to fully understand, to fully feel what he wants to do. And so talking live about the art while not really, even I was not on the website.
I mean, yeah, you were not presented with the art. You just had someone telling you about it, a second-hand appreciation of it.
The problem is exactly that. I think his work is way better when you actually play with it because it's usually kind of interactive.
Let's just say it grew on you. And let's move on, because the bulk of the discussion, bulk of the messages I received was about the next episode, in which we discussed the topic that is on everyone's mind, I'm sure at one point or another in their life. Why do anime characters scream their attack names when they attack? And so the first follow-ups I have is that I noticed that I still had notes from this episode recording that we didn't mention.
Okay.
So the follow-up from past me. I wanted to bring up the fact that through history, very famous swords, for instance, have received special names. You can think of Charlemagne or stuff like that. So it's a bit like we tend to forget about it because we don't think about medieval history. But at that point, it was it happened to confer some sort of specialness to an object by naming it, especially a weapon.
That's so fun, actually, because like it doesn't exist anymore, does it? Like, yeah, I'm thinking about Excalibur, for example. I think it might be, or Mjolnir. There's kind of a lot of weapons with names that like you actually know about, like people know about. But right now, I can't think of a single object that people would name. Maybe cars. I don't know.
Well, so the examples you point out are interesting because they're not historical. They are mythological.
That is true.
Well, Excalibur is I don't know the exact state of Excalibur. But historical examples are overshadowed by the mythological examples. The historical examples don't happen as much, I think. Well, I don't know. I mean, when the army develops a new weapon, it gives it a name. But the mythological example still happens when in movies or whatever.
Do they though? Like, can you name one?
Well, Mjolnir in Marvel. No, I don't know. When is the last time something was invented?
Oh, like the one in Harry Potter.
It doesn't have a real, cute name, but I'm sure
that's true.
It could.
Yeah, but like there's a huge difference between naming a weapon that you make, 1,000 times. For example, like a new bomb would have a name, but like there's 10 of these bombs or like 1,000 of these bombs. So you're not really naming a weapon, you're naming like the project.
Yeah, that's very true.
What's fun with a sword is like you're naming the actual like one sword, which is...
And I do think that you are right in the fact that single object, like single instance naming kinda disappeared, except maybe for humans and still...
Maybe like single item doesn't exist anymore as well. Like there's no items that has...
Yes, so that's exactly what I was going to say. If you read anything from Baudrillard or anything like that, it's right into his domain, saying like single objects don't exist anymore. Everything is a copy of a copy of a copy. And we lost the unicity, the symbolic oneness of a thing.
Maybe in craftsmanship, I don't know, like maybe some craftsmen do name their creation.
Yeah, but does it matter if the creation doesn't escape their garden or whatever?
I met a guy who was an interior designer for like rich people, and so he bought this like table that was super well known apparently and cost like 150K, like an insane amount of money for a table. And I don't know if the table has a name, but I feel like it would. Like it's a one-of-a-kind table, and I think in furniture, like there's this kind of like really expensive one-of-a-kind furniture.
Well, in most things, I assume that you could get also a special car. I mean, it's basically artwork at this point, right? Then in art, you are one-of-a-kind.
Yeah, but is a sword art? Like maybe. Yeah.
So I guess maybe by giving it a name, you made it art.
Maybe.
That being said, like naming an anime attack, you do reproduce the attack, so it might be closer to the initial thing we were talking about, to the weapon.
Yeah, so I have another follow-up, which is kind of the same as you. It's more of like a thought that I had more than a follow-up from one of our listeners, which is... We didn't talk at all about, in mangas, there's another trope that is very, very used, which is asking the name of your opponent. And you often see people say, I will tell you my name if you beat me. And
yeah, there's also, you often see like the trope, like it's, you should tell me your name before asking mine.
And I thought like it was kind of interesting in the same kind of manner, which is like giving names this power of like, I don't really know. I think it's very Japanese, maybe. Like, I don't think in like Western culture, you see that very strong
emphasis on name. Well, my gut reaction to when you brought up the subject is like maybe it's just a matter of, politeness, etiquette, whatever. But it is true that, as we mentioned in the episode, there is this persisting thing that knowing the name of something gives you power over it.
Yeah, but maybe you're right though. Like maybe it's more about respect.
I mean, I still think that there is a lot more to say about this power of a name. I mean, we'd have to call some sort of language specialist or something, or linguistic historian, because like if you name something, sometimes it makes it true. Sometimes it gives it some sort of existence, like a thing in itself.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, maybe it's a bad example, but like naming a generation millennials creates kind of like a class, like coming up with the name actually changes the world. So I know that in linguistics or something, like some people must be studying that, but not me.
Yeah, but is it then? But like you're naming a concept, and then the concept exists. Especially
in philosophy, it's done a lot. Finding a name, like for instance, most obscure example, but Chalmers' hard problem of consciousness kind of like created a research field, more or less, like created a problem. So sometimes when you come up with the right terminology or the right conceptualization in a way, you create something out of existence.
Would you say it's because he named it, or just because like he discovered a category? Like I don't think the name has any value. He posed the problem of consciousness in a way that made more sense, and then he named it.
Yeah, the importance is clearly having the boundaries that define it, but the boundaries without the name is a complicated paraphrase, and it doesn't really stick in people's mind. I don't think in history you have a lot of examples of clear boundaries without a name. They usually go together, just for practicity.
Okay, did you have real follow-up?
I have real follow-ups, but before that, just briefly, I had planned to bring up the very well-known example of the name of a spell, that is Wingardium Leviosa, and how much the pronunciation matters. But maybe it's just a matter of the name being written more in the phonetic language than in the alphabet. When you talk about like attack names and spell names, not bringing up Wingardium Leviosa is, I think, a crime.
We talked about Harry Potter, but we forgot about Wingardium Leviosa. That's kind of weird.
Well, we didn't go in depth, I guess.
Like I didn't think. What's interesting, I think, is like the pronunciation. What has power is the spoken word. It's not like the written word.
Okay, let's go into like actual follow-up from actual listeners.
Okay, real follow-up. 222.
Real follow-up. I mean, all follow-ups are real in a way, but Yaris, which is one of our usual listeners, sent me a wonderful comment. Centered with a few different points which we're going to go through, centered roughly around sports, which is really nice because we didn't talk at all about sports. But so he made the parallel between these attack names and a topic that's been on the news recently, which is tennis. Because in tennis, people often yell when they hit the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a very well-known and widespread phenomenon, and journalists talk about it, and researchers talk about it, and journalists talk about the researchers. So apparently it's more or less to like destabilize the adversary.
Is it?
Well, so it's hard to tell like if it's what is the origin of it, like if it has the goal of that. But apparently research shows, and I guess I'll link it below because I didn't fact check this at all, but it might have an actual effect on reaction time, and so it's some sort of and also kind of like camouflage for if you ever use your auditory system to figure out where the ball is headed. Yeah, so it's masking, it's camouflaging some information, destabilizing the adversary and giving yourself strength, more or less. I don't know. I just thought the parallel was interesting.
The theory is super interesting because but do you think it's like a conscious choice by the player? It's not just like they want to yell because I don't know, like they put all their like strengths into it and then like they just yell, or like do you actually think that like they have that theory in their mind?
I think it's completely social, based on imitation, etc. But there might be some sort of implicit selection mechanism, like all the people who didn't yell ended up losing, and so when you train, Darwinism at work.
The cute parallel would be that it gives more power to your ball or something, like it gives you more strength, and that would be kind of a cool parallel with like shonen work, which you could say that like yelling Rasengan like give you more power, I guess.
I do think that when you hit the ball, you probably want to exhale at the same time, so letting the air out of your lungs.
And maybe like yelling also like gives you more adrenaline.
I mean, yeah, people do pump themselves up with loud noises.
So then it's just the sounds. There's like you don't need the name actually.
Well, that's another part of this comment was about another. I don't know if I should call that sports, but he was talking about a catch a little bit and highlighting that there is also attack names, but this time it's not yelled by the performers or whatever. It's yelled by the commenters. I think this places the question in a completely different domain, which is then a description of what's happening. I mean, so the email ends by making the parallel between catch and Pokemon fights, in which now it's not just the commenter that gives the name of the attack, it's the trainer who talks to the Pokemon, and then it's not just like the marketing aspects, but it becomes communication between two parts of the team in a way, because if the trainer doesn't say anything, then the Pokemon doesn't know what to do, and it becomes an essential part of the process.
I never, to be honest, like Pokemon has been always super puzzling to me. An animal, like you should be able to fight without your trainer telling you everything that you need to do. Like what are you doing? In the anime, like if the trainer doesn't do anything, like the Pokemon will just chill. They're kind of forced to do it because the trainer is yelling it, which give it like kind of a weird, like if you think about it, like kind of a weird, like dominant slave interaction.
Yeah. I mean, a lot has been written about that. But it's interesting because the Pokemon actually performing the attack is not yelling the attack name. They're just yelling the Pokemon attack, the Pokemon name.
Yeah, and that was such a weird choice, actually, to make like the Pokemon say their name.
But the marketing side of it really works. Then you know the name of the Pokemon.
If you've ever found yourself in a situation where you're not sure what to say, you should try scripts. Their simple and clear instruction will guide you through what you have to say for optimal results. I'm using one right now and loving it.
So, by the way, I recently completely changed my worldview about machine learning, and I think it's worth telling you, because it was all because of a video game. I think you would agree that with the feeling that machine learning is a bit, let's say, disappointing. It's a bit of a letdown because it's this math formula that works in a black box, and you put data in, you get data out. It's not cute at all. You don't have any sophisticated mechanism except a super hardcore math formula. But it's not cute.
It's not cute. Like, I think it's not cute for two reasons. Like, the first reason is it's always the same solution for every problem, which remove the cuteness of finding a new solution. The second point is when you have the solution, then you can't really understand what it's doing.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
Also remove the cuteness. And yeah, but like we talked, I think, a lot about like the cuteness of machine learning in our machine learning episodes. So
did you have a machine learning episode?
On GPT-3, what are you talking about?
On GPT-3, yeah, okay. Yeah, we talked a little bit about it. So whatever. So I used to be like that, really disappointed by the fact that the solution to everything is this same square thing that you apply everywhere and you don't understand, and it's a bit sad.
So I'm still on this side. Okay.
Recently, I have come to distance myself with this side
Okay.
by playing a little game called Gladiabots on Steam. Gladiabots, which is, I love the concept. The concept is you write the programming for some bots, some robots, and then they fight in an arena against either pre-rendered levels for training or in a tournament against other people. And you have different modes, which is like an all-out battle, a king of the hill, or a collection point thing. But it's really cute. Like, it's about programming your own robots.
Okay.
What's not to like?
What's the tool to program it though?
So the tool, I want to preface this by saying it's not the only tool of its kind, like the only game of its kind, and I know a bunch like scripts. Or I love the one that was with leaks in web browser, like Leak Wars or something like that, where you didn't program robots but leaks, whatever. The tools are often like some sort of high-level programming language inside their software, which, for instance, Scripts, which is another game that does more or less the same, recently made a new version where you could import directly JavaScript files.
Okay.
But it feels too much like working to In Gladiabots, you manipulate blocks in a very... I don't know if you know Scraps, the programming for children, but it's that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Anyway, like a high-level, pretty easy programming language that still allows you to do whatever you want, still Turing complete. And so my experience with this really changed my view of machine learning.
So my first intuition when you say that is like, okay, it's Turing complete, but this kind of coding don't really allow you to do machine learning. So it's more like logical door, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. It's not like you cannot do machine learning. Well, you can't really do machine learning.
Yeah, so that's why I'm a bit surprised, because you would think right now, like when I say that, like, okay, so the solution is clearly machine learning. Like if you want to be the best, like you just like put machine learning and you will learn to play well better than any kind of programming that you can do with like logical door. And so I don't really see, like, right now my first intuition is like, what are you talking about?
Well, so basically this was my life in a world without machine learning, right?
Yeah.
This is the more or less the only thing you can't do is wide scale machine learning. You have to do some sort of program that you understand, and you can put your little module in a bigger module and encapsulate things to make more and more complex things. But it's like the alternative to machine learning, essentially. And so I started doing that, and I started with a very simple program, like, oh, let's get close to the center and then shoot on the enemy. First experience is, to do something so stupid, it's still a bit cumbersome because you have to specify, like, it's not as easy as you'd think. And of course, when you do something completely stupid, you get destroyed. And so then you start thinking about a strategy a little smarter, saying like, okay, I'm gonna try to first go towards the center and then avoid the enemies, etc. You think of a high-level strategy that you think would get you through most of the easy fights. And you spend an evening or two implementing it, making your sub-module that selects the different targets, etc. And then you test it, and then it completely fails because it gets butchered in a way you didn't think about. And so you patch this way, and then you get butchered in another way you didn't think about. So then you stop the game, you get fed up, you call your brother, you're like, next time we talk to each other online, maybe we could try it together, maybe it's a collaborative game. So you call your brother, you start over from scratch, you listen to his solution and bring in your expertise from last time, come up with a super robot, and then the super robot gets destroyed by an edge case you didn't think about, so you try to patch the edge case, and then there's always this next edge case, which is a lot like programming. In fact, when you fix a bug, there's always two more bugs that arise. And then when I was looking at my program, which had like cascading hundreds of ifs, I was like, okay, maybe this is not cute at all. Maybe it would be just cuter if I could somehow prevent the edge cases. And
Okay.
I thought that this switch was pretty interesting in my mindset.
Okay, so it's not okay. I thought it would be like your argument would be way different than that. Basically, you were just saying that like procedural algorithms are not super cute, and so it's more that you don't like them anymore than like you like machine learning more.
Well, yeah, it's more like, I don't know. So there's definitely some I don't like them. Like there is definitely like once you've done so many cases, you know that it's ugly, like it becomes ugly. But there's also some sort of beauty in higher level abstraction. Like, so when you start managing your robot, you try to group your subroutines, etc., to make something a little bit more intelligent. And so you design yourself all these boxes with meaning, and then you can see them fail in real time. And in a way, machine learning is the ultimate box designer. So there is also like I do somehow recognize some sort of value in machine learning, which basically automates all this gruesome failing that I've done into something that works.
Yeah, but the thing is like you could automate that with, for example, like a genetic algorithm.
With what? Sorry?
Like with a genetic algorithm. It's cuter because then like you can just put like random rules and see what works, and then like you know the rules and it's still like a bit cuter, I think. But like yeah, you could do machine learning with like GPT-3 coding like the blocks and then like read like the if statement, I guess. Like you're not...
The thing is, when you're going to try to do a genetic algorithm, you're going to specify a subset of... Like, you're going to have to encode your problem into some sort of genome code. And then you're going to somehow hit the wall that the genome code is not as expressive as you'd want it to be.
I think like what I aesthetically dislike about machine learning, because I really like machine learning as like a concept, but like what I aesthetically dislike is that where like in any other kind of algorithm that you could do to solve this problem, a human being given enough time could do the same. And I think then like your appreciation of how the algorithm work is a bit better in a sense of like you have more empathy toward the algorithms than like with machine learning, which is just okay, it works very well.
I don't know if empathy is the right word. You have more understanding because you see more clearly the structure. Maybe what lacks from machine learning is some sort of explicitation of the inner structure so that we can see what the fuck that corresponds to.
Yeah. So yeah, what I wanted to say is like what's interesting is like we're always saying it's a black box. But actually, like in vision-centric machine learning, you can start to understand what it's doing because like you can see visual feature that like always basically light up the same neurons. This neuron kind of represents that like it has an edge. This neuron kind of represents that like it's a smooth edge. And you can actually like kind of reverse engineer the network with like cluster of stuff that basically light up with like visual feature, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. When you have access to it, you can see what's happening inside. One other thing in vision that also is pretty cute that I've experimented with recently is that you can take the kernel of what, let's say, the knowledge it learns and start producing things from this. Like instead of having be a recognition thing, have it be a producing thing, so that you can kind of see the essence of what it thinks it understands. So there's always ways to probe what's inside, but maybe they should be more systematized. I don't know.
Why would you do that? Like as a company, I mean, like there's no need to actually understand what it's doing if it's working well.
There is a very big need to understand AI for AI alignment in the future. One of the big pillars of people who are working into making sure that a super AI doesn't destroy the human race just to maximize paperclips. One of the big points they're working on is making sure to understand what's going on inside. First, it's not easy because the sufficiently advanced AI can lie to you.
Is there a lot of people thinking about that problem?
Saving the human race is a pretty strong incentive to...
Yeah, I guess so. But like when you compare the number of people that works on this problem versus the number of people that works on the output of machine learning, I think it's not even the same like order of magnitude.
Clearly.
which is, so I think we will arrive to like the super AI that transforms the universe into paperclips way before we actually...
I have zero hope for AI alignment. I think it's a dead issue and mankind is doomed. But that, I mean, if you can't even align a market with like human level intelligence, how can you expect to align a superhuman level intelligence? AI alignment is a complex topic and doomed.
That's a good conclusion.
Is it though?
Like machine learning is great and we're gonna turn into paperclip.
I mean, it is easier, I think, to align and audit black box machine learning than a cascade of thousands of ifs that control your robot in GladiaBots and you don't even know where to go to rectify the failure.
I think that's the whole like behavioral versus cognitivist debate. When we talk about like human cognition, it's like, do we actually care about what's happening inside or do we only care about input output? And it's like the exact same issue actually. And some people, but what's interesting is like some people, like behaviorists don't really exist anymore. The black box before was like the head. Now it's like, ooh yeah, but like the vision known is kind of not a black box. So like let's remove it from the black box, and then like this thing is not the black box, so let's remove it as well. And the black box is like getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and they're calling themselves neo-behaviorists. That's fine, like whatever. But what I'm saying is that like this issue has been like debated for a while in psychology, and what's interesting is like what won is like cognitivists, which say like it's important to know what's happening inside. Like that's how you learn better how to actually have an impact on the output. And like I think like that might be true for machine learning as well. Like knowing how it works might allow us to progress into our machine learning algorithm.
I mean, in a way, the current machine learning paradigm is a bit cognitivist, right? It's more it's about the mapping between inputs and outputs, more or less.
So like okay, in cognitive science what we're doing is like we're discovering how the human brain works and how like it does everything that it does. Okay, what's interesting with machine learning is we're coming from nothing, like there's nothing, we just have a block and we're giving each block a function to create kind of like a superhuman brain. We're recreating this kind of feature of the brain, like recognizing X, Y, Z, but it doesn't work the same way, meaning like you can't just, you can start with it, like, okay, human brain does that, and like, let's try it with machine learning, and it's rarely the best way to do it in machine learning. So we're finding like the best way to do stuff that humans do, recreating like cognition, basically, like with its feature.
I don't know if it's the best way, though. It's the best way following this math paradigm.
Well, with this gear.
Yeah.
Like we invented like a gear, like the neuron, like basically for human being, for biological brain, it's like a neuron. And like what we invented is another type of neuron, and we're trying to do the best with that type of neuron.
It's certainly optimal in a sense. I think the conclusion is that you should invest in being shrink for computers, for AIs. That's the job of the future. And probably cognitivist, right? Cognitivist psychology for AIs.
That would be such a cool new podcast.
What? Analyzing AIs one by one?
No, job of the future. Like you create a job for each episode.
Well, I mean, there is only one job of the future. It's cognitivist shrink for AIs, and then the AIs do all the other jobs. Anyway, dear listener, please prove to us that you're not a black box by delivering some cute outputs to various platforms we're listening, like Gmail, Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, Not Daily Podcast, in one go. Please forgive us for the horrible SEO. And see you later in the next episode.
And see you not tomorrow.
Oh, you're killing me.